From the hottest YouTube clip to the latest iTunes, we take access to high-speed internet largely for granted here in Central Ohio. But in Appalachian, Ohio, it is not that simple. Jason William, the director of the Governor's Office on Appalachia, and Connect Ohio Executive Director Stu Johnson joined us to talk on the spectrum about the effort to fix that problem. It's called Connect Appalachia Broadband Initiative. The goal is lofty, to pull that part of the state within national standards in broadband adoption within just 24 months. You know, gentlemen, when you talk about internet access in this day and age, to us, it's just, what app am I downloading? Is it difficult to make people understand that the internet still has not arrived in Appalachia?
Absolutely, Colleen. It's a challenge that Stu and I have taken on, working together with Connect Ohio, myself as the director of the Governor's Office of Appalachia, that when we look at the 32 counties in Appalachia, 1 out of 3 children does not have internet access. And certainly it affects certainly their education, their health care, their access to the world. And it's something we're very concerned about, but we can see opportunity in the future. Well,
as Connect Ohio goes, when you look at this really massive undertaking, what are the biggest challenges at this point? Is it getting the technology there, or making it affordable? What do you have to deal with?
It's really a comprehensive approach. The bridge of the digital divide isn't very long, but it's extremely wide, so you have to cover all aspects. One, obviously, the biggest barrier, or the primary barrier, can be availability. So Connect Ohio does mapping through the National Telecommunications and Information Administration federally that identifies where the and underserved areas are in Ohio, and then we work with providers to try to build that access. But just because availability is there can also be an adoption component. That there's several barriers to adoption that could be financial and some other things, but what's consistent throughout the non-adopters is a lack of the most basic of computer education and understanding how it's actually relevant in their lives. So we have to cover all aspects of the continuum, from availability to access and adoption and then usage.
And it's not just families who are impacted by this. This really disrupts commerce, doesn't it, when you don't have these services available in a significant portion of the state?
Certainly. And when we look at how the Appalachian region has trailed economically to a place obviously like here in Columbus, Ohio, and across the state, we want to bring the Appalachian region up to, within 24 months, the speed that we have here in Columbus, Ohio. So when we look at our small businesses, our large businesses, and we look at the economics of the Ohio River, we need the internet capability and the broadband connection to create jobs in our part of Ohio.
Well, what's the holdup right now? I mean, why isn't the broadband availability there at this point in this state, and in the year 2012?
Well, as we say in 2012, we look back at rural electrification that occurred in this country. It's because it's expensive, because we have hills and we have valleys and we have places that are tough to get to, and we're having the same conversation today that they had years ago about rural electrification. It takes time to get there, and Stu and I often talk about the middle mile and the last mile. So the wire might go to a certain part of a town, but it doesn't go down a road or doesn't go down a street.
I mentioned to you earlier, my brother and sister both still live in Appalachia, where I grew up, in the mountains of western Pennsylvania. And when I go home, I'm amazed at how slow their internet access is and how everything takes so long. Is it difficult to make people even understand in this day and age that these services just aren't available to people the way we take for granted?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Ohio can boast 98% of the households in Ohio have broadband, more than dial-up connectivity, and that's wonderful. And we're right up there in terms of the states, across the nation. But the problem is that 98% isn't ubiquitous. Monroe County, for example, is below 40%. So, and as Jason mentioned, the problem getting there really boils down to simply the density of the population. Delivery of any service, whether it's pizzas or electric or internet, is based on the density of the population. And without that density, it's hard to justify a sustainable business model. And some of the larger providers have simply finally come out and said, we don't have a model that can reach those people. So we have to find courageous entrepreneurs that will look at bringing that access. It's a basic need. I mean, we got a lot of support from the governor and Ornet and that whole initiative, and several people weighed in, economic development folks from New Albany and Dublin and across the state, about how critical it is. But think about a fire station that has dial-up, first responders. As Jason said, 1 in 3 kids in Appalachia don't have broadband in their household. The graduation rate is 8% higher for children that have broadband in their home.
We're almost out of time, but the bottom line, what's this going to cost and who's going to pay for it?
Well, what we're doing is we're putting together a team approach, and in many parts of Appalachian region, we're working with the oil and gas industry to partner. We're working with educational institutions to partner, and we're working certainly with the utility companies to find out what makes sense, how do we make it affordable.
And what's the timeline on all this? What you'd like to see it done in 2 years?
24 months is our goal.
Okay, well, good luck on that, and we'll be checking back in with you, I'm sure.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Colleen.
And we'll be right back.